My name's Miles Unsworth. I'm a filmmaker, a writer, and an activist. Democracy means dignity to me. So I'll put it like this. The power that other people have over us is something that we're never actually able to consent to properly. We're just born into the world as it is. We're taught that it is the way that it is at school, and whether by intention or by accident, made to think that it is the way it is and that's natural. We never, even when, if we become aware of how constructed the world really is, we never really get to properly agree to giving the power of our lives away to the officers that have it. The obvious response to that would be, well, how would that work? How would we sign what would we sign? Um, and that would be fair. And the way that I think the compromise to that is the compromise to, well, why should these officers exist then? I never agreed to them having this much power over me, is that we can replace the people in them. One of the things that I really try and do is stay informed, um, and try and understand how these officers really work and how they really operate, because yeah, it's an extension of, well, we're never able to agree to them having the power that they do. It's another part of the compromise, as well as being able to vote people out of those offices, is also, well, if you're going to have this much power, I want to know what you're doing with it. And I think it's really important to, yeah, stay transparency and just finding out as much as possible. So I try and read as much journalism as I can, and try to support as much journalism as I can, and try and inform myself about sort of historical context to what's going on at the moment. So yeah, I'd really just try and keep informed and keep a systemic analysis out of what I learn. I think it all stems from my experiences at school. I'm autistic and I'm ADHD, so I was put into an education system that was built without people like me in mind. I didn't have a very good time in it for a number of reasons. And so kind of from that, I learned to be very questioning. I learned to be very inquisitive about why things are the way they are and why people have the power that they do. Until I was a teenager, I kind of felt like either this is the way it is and there's nothing we can do, or in my more unreasonable moments, thought we need a revolution if we want to change our lives for the better. Because I didn't trust a lot of people who had power over me, and I never agreed to them having power over me. So it was kind of like I became just convinced that power in and of itself was evil. And then when I was 16, I think, um, this thing happened that absolutely changed my life, which was I was about to go back to school, and my parents didn't want to leave me by myself in the house because they knew I was upset. So they took me out to this thing they were going to. They were going to see a guy was coming to town to speak. And it was a guy that they both really liked. His name was Jeremy Corbyn. And he was campaigning to be leader of the Labour Party. And I remember parking our bikes and going to Great St. Mary's Church where he was speaking. My dad had gone ahead and he'd gotten inside, and there was a huge crowd. Like, they couldn't let everybody in. And I initially thought, oh well, we were late. And it turned out that didn't matter, because Jeremy Corbyn was going to give the same speech to everybody outside who couldn't get in, and then go inside and speak again. And he spoke about his life. He spoke about challenging power. He spoke about being an elected official, speaking, saying, we can actually do things differently. We can spend money on improving our own lives rather than on war. And it was huge for me. It was huge, not just because I thought, yeah, this guy talked complete sense, but also because I thought, wait a minute, good people can have power. We don't need a revolution. We don't need to smash the state to live a dignified life. It is possible for the people who have power over us to have good intentions. And that really changed my perspective and made me think about, well, what makes someone worthy of my vote? I'd say the biggest fault line in our democracy is media. I'd say that the fact that our media is owned by people, by individuals, is a danger because it means they can shape the narrative to suit their own interests. And that is the danger in that should be apparent to everyone. And this isn't a particularly new thing. This has been going on for 50 years. Since Rupert Murdoch first dipped his web flippers into our country. But it's getting worse thanks to the internet, thanks to social media. We spend so much time online, we spend so much time on our phones. The people who own the apps that we spend all of our time on can shape narratives to their own interests, and their interests are not ours, it's their own. And it's in the services of their own money, fundamentally. And you don't have to be a communist. You don't have to be an anarchist to think, I don't know if wealthy people should be able to shape the media, to be able to shape what we know to suit their own interests. I really can't see how, even if you're a conservative, I really can't see how you can defend it. I'm very hopeful that we can one day have a democracy not shaped by money, but shaped by people. I'm very hopeful. And I think we're seeing a backlash to the current nightmare that we're living in growing. I think people are catching on that. I remember I was at an event recently. An author who has written a whole book about tech um, said something very powerful. She said the tech justice movement actually got a huge favor from Donald Trump, and it is the image from his inauguration of all the tech billionaires lined up behind him, because there is no better way. There was no better way to show everybody, to really communicate to everybody, these people, the people who own these platforms that you're spending all of your time on, do not have your interests at heart. They do not have good interests at heart, and they are not apolitical. And I think people understanding that, the more people understand that, means we can start pushing things in a better direction. I don't know what that direction would look like. I don't have an exact vision for what a better democracy would look like, but I know it would be more transparent. It would be genuinely democratic, where capital has no say and people have all the say.